Our topic for today is the state of Masonry in today's America. I have with me today Right Worshipful Robert Garner, District Deputy Grand Master of Masonic District 30F. He's also the past master of C.A. Fortner Lodge 1304. Good morning, Robert.
Good morning, sir.
I also have Frank Lynn. He is the past master of Sam B. Crawford Lodge number 1418, presently the Tyler of Garden Oaks Lodge number 1306, and the Texas State Captain of the Freemasons Riding Club. Morning, Frank.
Good morning, Hank.
And I am your host, Hank Vatt. I am the presiding worshipful master of Sam B. Crawford Lodge number 1418. Okay, guys, the state of Masonry in today's America. You know, with everything that's been going on, it's going to be hard to even begin this conversation because it's complicated. But let's start where we can. Robert, what you got?
Well, Brother Vatt, I would say that the state of Masonry, I don't want to be the negative Nancy or nothing like that, but I would say it's challenged because, for one, I mean, we know about the COVID-19 and the restrictions and everything, and how the Grand Master has put that into his message this year. But I would say it is challenged along with the COVID and bringing brothers out of the weeds who have been out for a while. Then this piled up on top of that. I would say that it is challenged indeed. Masonry is, but there's, like I say, hope of bringing brothers back out as soon as all this COVID fog lifts off of us. That would be nice.
And I know COVID's been a big deal because it's kind of affected everything. And I know it's affected Masonry a lot because our lodge individually, we were shut down for a while, and we've slowly been brought back to being able to do degrees and things like that. So it's nice, but at the same time, my curiosity is this. I think Masonry hit its peak back in the 50s at some point. Since that time, it's been not really on a steady decline, but on a decline. And I think that, at least I wonder if a lot of that's just due to technological advances, and I don't want to categorize Masonry as a product, but competitive products. It's hard to compete these days with as much media as we have with the internet and TV and video games and just everything that's out there.
Yes,
And
sir.
and Masonry hasn't morphed and developed through that process. So I'm wondering if, as Masons, we should even consider making some changes along the way that would make Masonry a more attractive product, so to speak, for new guys coming in. What do you think, Frank?
Well, I agree with Robert in the sense that we've had some challenges in Masonry. I look at Masonry, when I look at the state of Masonry, I look at it kind of three ways. I look at it physically, what it looks like today, and how we're made up and what the membership looks like. And then I look at it physically, or fiscally, I guess you should say. So I look at the finances of how we're doing there, because you look at where people spend their money, and that's what they care about, right? And then I look at it philosophically. You know, the teachings of Freemasonry, how it compares to society today. So we have challenges in all those areas. I think Masonry is solid, but definitely have some challenges in each and every area. When you look at, physically how we're doing, the membership, over the last 10 years, I've kind of taken a look at that, especially on a micro level at the local lodges that I've been a part of. And we've maintained our membership at almost a zero net gain over 10 years, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. That means that we're maintaining and things are moving along well and that sort of thing. But when you look at the average age of a Mason, especially in Texas, we're somewhere between 60 and 70 years old.
Wow. And I thought the average would have been 40 to 60 maybe.
Right.
60 to 70, that's something, yeah.
So the fact that, the average age is up there, and But the members that pass are being replaced by newer members is pretty good. But in the next coming years, and say 10 years, when your average is, you're going to have to replace your average. So the outgoing and the incoming, to stay even, have to be equal, obviously. And in 10 years, you know, the average Mason is not going to be here. So, or a large portion of them, anyway, that are here now. So that's one challenge that we have, you know, physically. Fiscally, the average lodge costs somewhere in the neighborhood of $20,000 to $25,000 a year to actually operate. Some more, some less,
Right.
but that's about the average. And I've taken a look at that, and we have sort of a challenge financially, because our revenue streams, obviously with COVID and everything, have been impacted for our operations. And you know, as worship master, the impact that you've had to go through. So raising funds to augment revenue streams is difficult in these times. And I kind of think about it like this, is, you know, we shouldn't expect, I mean, I don't expect someone to pay my bills for my house. And we should be solvent internally, and not depend on the community to support us and our lodges. And part of that has to do with the average Mason and how, you know, we came to this spot. And if you look at the average age of a Mason, their financial wisdom came from the 50s, 60s time frame. When you look at the cost of a loaf of bread in the 50s or 60s, it was probably 100 times less expensive than it is right now. And the cost of living comparatively is much less then than it is now. And now we have our average members pretty much on fixed incomes and retired. So when it comes to that additional income or revenue or dues to pay to augment the cost increase of operations, it's really hard for those guys to swallow. So there's some things that we need to look at there of how we do business. Because if you look at, most lodges charge their dues, there's no rhyme or reason of what they charge dues at. And if you look at them, most of them are cheaper than a 6-pack or a case of your favorite beverage a month.
Right.
So, you know, the value of what Masonry provides to the membership should equal, you know, what they're willing to pay for membership and to maintain the lodge status financially. So we have some challenges to get over there. And then philosophically, I kind of look at things, how are we doing there? And we have some challenges because, let's face it, we live in a time of moral decline.
Sure.
You know, you look at, in the United States, 86% of pornography is actually developed and published in the United States. And
That's
media,
a big number.
it's huge.
Yeah.
It's huge. And you know, so it's an interesting time where the media and we have a lot of things that are sectarian that are going against the grain of morality. And Masonry being a moral society, it's kind of an uphill battle against those things, because we're not in competition, if you will, but we're opposed to moral decline.
Right.
You know, so there's some challenges we definitely have to take a look at, and some things we can adjust, some we can't. I think we have to stick to the principles of Masonry, which make us moral and good, and then look at the things that we can adjust to improve our standing physically and financially. So
That all makes good sense. So if the average Mason is at that age, and that age is part of the big boom that happened way back when, so I think the average age in 10 or 20 years will drop. So what do we do to get younger guys involved? How do we battle against that moral decline and get younger gentlemen who are interested, like-minded guys, to come to Masonry? And I know it's part of our tradition not to ask, you know, and that, I think that kind of sticks us sometimes.
Yes. Yeah.
But there's got to be a method by which, because this isn't something that deserves to die out over a period of time. Masonry is too important. It's made too large of an impact on the country and other countries as well, really the world. So we have to make sure, and it's us, we have to make sure that it continues forward. Robert, do you have any ideas on what we can do to get younger folks more interested in how we can compete with even technology? Maybe, and my thinking is maybe if we try to advance Masonry through technology, that may be one of our answers, you know?
Well, I know that from going to the few conferences that we had, Grandmaster had his own team set up, and they went around traveling to different lodges and seeing just that. Seeing like, well, one lodge, was it up near Dallas or something like that? They developed a festival with their lodge start out with a lawnmower pull off, for lack of better words, and it graduated into kind of like a truck and tractor pull, a little festival behind that, and that lodge sponsored that, and the communities got behind it. That was one of them. That was a big thing like that, and being involved in the communities. I know with visiting at y'all's lodge, y'all are more involved in y'all's community, really, admittedly, to say, than our lodge. I mean, we try to do with the Little League a little bit, having bottled water with our emblem on it. I think, did I get one from y'all as well, or there's another lodge who's doing that? Yeah,
We've just done so many different things.
It's a form of advertisement. Yes, sir. It's a form of advertisement. But yes, sir. And then referring back to the charts and graphs that they did at Grand Lodge in reference to all the different ages and age groups and the brothers coming in and going out. Yeah, you touched on the very same thing that they did with that. And as far as electronically, Brother Brad Billings, he's going to be Grand Senior Warden. He's right.
I believe so.
Yeah, and so when he came in to the Grand Lodge, he promoted a lot of that too. So I expect a lot of advantages or promotions of electronic stuff coming up with him, because he's a young brother himself. That makes me sound old because I'm like 50. I didn't know we'd be doing math. I'm 50 something, 53 I believe. But I think he's younger than us and all like that. And he's very energetic too, and all. And what's funny is with him, from meeting him at a different place, he sees you once or twice or whatever like that, and he comes right up to you, hey brother so and so, you know, he's good like that too.
I found that most Masons are personable people.
Yep.
You know, we're extroverts. I mean, there's not too many introverts that remain in Masonry.
Because I myself am a social butterfly too.
There
I
you
like
go.
to go around to visit with different people and everything. But I think with that, he's going to bring, well, even this coming up, grand communication. Guess what? It just might very well be virtual, just like everything else.
Yeah, and I really do believe that once we get used to using those types of streams to get the information out, even like this podcast, I think this podcast
This
possibly
is excellent. This is great.
So, but I wanted to get back to something real quick. You know, you were mentioning that we're a little bit more involved in the community. I have found we've had, I think, 3 open houses at Sam B. Crawford past 3 years, excluding this one due to COVID. But out of those 3, we've always gotten members. And not only have we gotten members, but we've gotten active members and we've gotten young members. So, and you know, a lot of the guys, you say, hey, I want to do an open house. They're like, you know, it's just, I think that it's hard for us to make those changes, but the open houses, at least for us in our community, work. So I think what we need to do is we need to try things like that and find out what works and continue to do that. And then we can reverse our trend. It's just, but it's not something, and Frank knows this, me and him have discussed this. It's not something that's gonna happen overnight, it's not something that's gonna happen even in 5 years.
No.
But we've gotta begin somewhere. The other thing I want to get to, I want to get your ideas on what you think about. I've always been a bit perplexed on why we're unable to ask. If we know that someone's interested in masonry, why can't we just ask them? To me, it makes sense. It's not, and it's not selling masonry. It's just extending an invitation. So, why does the Grand Lodge frown upon that? And why do all Grand Lodges, I guess, frown upon that? And why is it such an integral part of, hey, if you want to become a masonry, or you want to become a mason, you have to ask yourself. Most guys don't get that. So, what are your thoughts on that, Frank?
Well, it comes down to, well, it's a twofold deal, right? So, they have to know about masonry to be able to ask. But truly, the idea is if you're interested, you're going to ask. If I'm, Frank Lynn, the profane guy out in the world, and I meet Hank Vatt, and you're a Mason, and you say, hey, I've got to go to lodge tonight, I'm meeting a bunch of great guys, and blah, 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 and then I'm going to ask some questions. And that's kind of where it leads into that final going, what do you have to do to become a member? And that's where you want to get to. You don't want to ask someone, hey, let me get you a petition, let me recruit you in here, let's see if you'll make a good Mason, because they think that they're going to do you a favor by joining your organization. And that comes with a sense of entitlement, which is way out of control today. So it's probably better that they make the decision to join the organization themselves, and then you have that automatic commitment up front, because you know as well as I do, when you're in business and you have an idea and you want to sell that idea, you want the person that you're selling it to think it's their idea, and then they're all about it and they're committed when they come to that rationalization. And it's similar in masonry. Is our problem is we don't get the word out of who we are and what we do, so that people ask those questions and become interested and join. I don't think we should be recruiting, but I think that we should, be such an integral part of the community that people ask, hey, who are you guys, and how can I be a part of it? That's where you want to drive to, not hey, we want you to join. It's, this is who we are. If you're interested, let us know, kind of thing.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good
That
perspective.
ties into Grand Master's part of his message as well. The part of the branding, he called it. Each Grand Master has their, I won't say a shtick or what have you like that, but their motto, their message, and all like that. And part of it as far as the branding, much like with your shirt with a Masonic emblem on there. It's something as simple as having the lapel pin, the ball caps, all the stuff you can get off of Grand Lodge as well. Wearing that out and about in the public, and the general public, I guess in a small sense, seeing like, well, that's a pretty good dude, man. He opened the door for me. What is that starting with? What kind of the ask about right there? Instead of like, I'm a Mason, look, kind of. That's his part of was part of his message, as well as the branding, being out there even on an individual, showing that we're good men, and I guess you can get into the making good men better, the Masonic part of it as well, but attracting attention in that way, on an individual basis. And plus it makes you act better a little bit too. I mean, it's most worshipful, Paul D. Underwood brings into one of his stories, like, well, with a bumper sticker on his truck, makes him drive a little more Masonically.
Sure.
Yeah,
you have to. Yeah,
and everything. Sense. But it puts you out there, and everything. Those small part of the advertisement per se. Because like I say, always to be one, ask one, but it's kind of like, can you hint around about it? Like, hey, I'm supposed to run a lodge, or such like that, kind of in that way.
We really don't have any advertising other than our members. So,
well,
that surprises me. We of course have fish fries and things like that. But as far as advertising, I don't think we really, that I've known, I don't think we really have any advertising.
Well, when your right worshipful comes in, your district deputy grand master presents the message. He'll be telling you about some YouTube channels and on the Grand Lodge of Texas Facebook page, and there is little.
There you go.
There you go. That's kind of like it's kind of weird as far as bringing out like that, but yeah, it's all involved in the message as well about the little that they're inventing up. And like I say, with this upcoming grand communication, you never know. Hope everything just goes away and we can all come up.
Yeah.
But there are going to be restrictions, and your guy ought to be telling about that as well, because we'll say like they got limitations as well, and all that's going to be cut down to a fraction as far as like actual brothers that can be there, and they're still working out those little dents and dings and everything of what do you have, a Masonic Grand Watch Party or something like that, or at a lodge, or it said you can even be down to, you can watch it on your phone,
Right.
voting, such like that. All that's supposed to be able to be down to like yes or no,
Wow.
and even
That's more advanced than our elections now, because
yeah, so that's gonna be They
Yeah.
Brother Craig Enderley out of Baytown Lodge. He's part of that committee, and yeah, they are. He's real excited about it, and a lot of people are as well. But then you got the others. Well, we couldn't go to Grand Lodge, but then other people are like, well, it's easier to do it here,
Right.
in person. So it's 6 of one, and half a dozen others. But that's the advancement of the technological thing
Right.
of it and everything. So, in regards to, I guess, as far as financially, he has a Grandmaster's recommendation about with proposal of preserving the building, an amendment to 508, and also to address endowed memberships. And that's kind of like, it don't go into details on that. It's like endowed memberships. I mean, I've only been in this since 2012.
Mhm.
That's the financial end of it, paying into Grand Lodge, but like how the money that to keep the lodge afloat financially
Right.
and stuff like
Yeah.
that. That's something that I guess I need to.
Yeah, endowments are complicated.
Yeah,
they
to
are.
say the least. They really are complicated.
Yeah.
So since this conversation is about the state of Masonry in America, I kind of wanted to touch upon reasons for entry. So when I became a Mason, my big thing was that I knew that signers of the Declaration of Independence and all of those constitutional elements that brought about the United States of America were brought about, and a significant number of those individuals were Masons. I thought, well, okay, if they were able to put together something as great as this country, there you go. So then I started to look historically from this point back on how many individuals who were famous, who had had big achievements, and other elements like that were Masons. There were quite a few. And then, now here's the hook, okay? At least for me, this was the hook. What I call the allure of Masonry. It's secretive. It's mystic. It's dark. It's closed doors, and to me, it's okay. I want to know what those guys know. Obviously they know something I don't, because they're able to put together large countries that last 200 years, are able to invent things and do things that I've never been able to do. So it was the allure of Masonry that literally brought me in. But what I was a little disappointed about, and I've been a little disappointed about, is that the claim now is that there are no secrets. The biggest secret in Freemasonry is that we have no secrets. So, and here's my thing. If Coca-Cola's recipe has been a corporate secret for years, and the recipe for Kentucky Fried Chicken has been a big secret for many years, and it's okay for those corporations to have their secrets, why can't we? And why can't we hold those dear and near and keep that mystic allure? Because to me, that that it just builds curiosity, and I think more young people would be interested in coming to our doors if they still thought that, hey, these guys do have information, they do have knowledge that they keep secret because it's not available to the general public. And,
Well-
and you know, I've gotten into a lot of kind of arguments about this particular subject, but I have a belief that not only should we have, if we don't have secrets, we better get some, because that's really what we need, I think, to continue as an organization and to help slow the decline, is we need to reclaim our mysticism and say, hey, yeah, it's, you know, it's spooky and this, that, and the other, and aren't you interested? You know, because I think that kind of thing interests people. You know, I mean, I'm always hungry for knowledge, hence the reason why we're sitting here today. So, because I know I'm going to learn something before the day's out.
Yeah, always
So-
looking for further light.
There you go. So, what do you guys think about that? I mean, what do you think of the allure of Masonry, and should we expand upon it, or
Well-
should we stay where we're at?
Hank, before we leave, I'm going to tell you a secret,
Okay.
and
Can't
then you
wait.
should be good. But you can't tell anybody. All right, so we're good.
That's it.
Now, I think, you know, that's a lure, which is cool.
Mhm.
But it's kind of like, you know, when everybody puts up fronts, you know, and Masonry has that front, if you will. And a lot of Masons are coming and looking for the Holy Grail or the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, whatever mysticism there is there. And there's that disappointment at the end of the day when they go, oh, there's no Holy Grail. You know?
Y'all was supposed to know how many animals was on the ark.
Yeah. It's like, what happened to the I thought you were going to tell me what happened to the dinosaurs, but yeah, the real thing that I tell people a lot is, if you have a driving reason that you want to get into Masonry, or you're thinking about it, whatever that reason is, when you get into it and you get a year down the road, you're going to go, wow, I'm glad I'm here, but this is not why the reason that I'm here is not why I joined, you know.
Right.
And getting people, you know, when they join, getting them past that transition, you know, is the key to retention, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But how you attract them, I think for me, I have kind of a different take on it, because the secrets to me aren't as important. And I explain to people the secrets are kind of operative, right?
Mm-hmm.
We have secrets that we can have a conversation and know things about each other immediately. And it's interesting because that happens in front of the profane, and they see it happen and they go, what just happened? You know,
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell a quick story. I was on a motorcycle ride with a buddy of mine who was not a Mason, and we were in what's that? Where the OK Corral is? What town is that?
I have no idea.
I'm like-
I never even split
It's
off.
like, anyway, we were at the OK Corral, and anyway, I met another brother Mason, and he was from Florida, and we started having conversations, and it was like we'd known each other all our lives.
Exactly.
And Alec, my buddy, he goes, what just happened? He goes, how long have you known that guy? And I said, 45 seconds now. And he's like, it's like you guys knew each other all your life. And I said, well, we're Masons, you know, and kind of leave it at that. And man, you think that doesn't pique some curiosity.
Sure it does.
It's crazy. And then when people see us in public, I get a real kick out of the Freemasons Riding Club, because when we show up in force and we're riding somewhere to have fun, we're Freemasons. Everybody kind of gets that because we have the shield that has the square and compasses on it, and we're really out there. And we get people that come up and start asking questions just because, you know, they see us together and we're having a good time, and there's nothing, you know, standoffish about us, because most everybody's extroverts, and you know,
Right.
so it's a really cool thing. But I think we scared one guy once because we were up in Lufkin, Texas, and there was a guy there for church, and he walked up to us, saw a bunch of bikers and stuff didn't really notice the square and compasses, and he goes, "Are y'all men of God?" And in unison, without prompting, all 15 of us turned around and one voice said, "We are." And that scared the bejesus out of that guy, and he ran off. so it's, but I guarantee you there's other people that saw that and got the message. And so the secrets, I think they're important, and I think there is a lure to them. And they're actually operative secrets that we do keep for each other and from each other.
Mhm.
But for good reasons. But I think once people get in, though, they realize, what it's all about, and then they have to get value out of it to be retained. So we have more EAs on the roll than we probably have Master Masons because they left
Right.
and we didn't retain them.
But fortunately, Sam B has a 70% retention rate,
Yeah.
so we do really well.
Y'all always have a good crowd,
Yeah.
and well, sort of pre-COVID, that was the place to go.
Right.
Y'all was going to have about 30, almost 30 guys, 40 guys
Yeah.
there on a stated meeting,
Yeah, 30,
and everything,
45,
and
yeah.
all the like I said, the fellowship and the bull corning going on beforehand. Then during the meeting, that's the business part of it and all like that, and also during the degrees and everything. And that's where I look at as far as, like, for lack of better words, country lodges and city lodges, kind of like. They're C.A. Fortner, Channelview, we're kind of country, but we're kind of close to the city. Whereas out here is like, man, it's country, man. It's closer knit, I
Yeah.
guess to say,
Right.
and all. And then that's what I personally enjoy, like I say, with visiting y'all's lodges and trying out different ideas, I guess, that,
Sure.
that people have and all. And I hate that, like I said, fish fry didn't pan out this year, because I know that
No,
was
we weren't able to do any
Yeah.
fundraisers, but what we did was we put together a letter and we sent it out to all of our members and said, hey, this is a situation, we can't do any fundraisers, is there any way you can make a donation? And through that letter and through those donations, we actually raised more than we would have raised had we had a fish fry.
that's awesome.
So, yeah, we did-
See, that's another idea.
We did really good on it.
Put in my heart.
I'm not
drive
sure
right
if you can continue to go that route.
Yeah, passing the hat per
Yeah,
se or whatever.
but it
but a
worked
one-time
out.
thing, it never
Yeah, it
hurts.
worked
I
out
don't
really
think.
well. So we got lucky. So, but with you, what do you think of the secrets and the allure of Masonry? Was that part of what originally got you in, or how did you become a Mason, and what were your ideas?
Well, what had happened was, my grandfather was a Mason, and my
Okay.
uncle was a Mason, and they both went to Buena Lodge back in Buena, Texas, and all. And I knew kind of them a little bit like that, but not really. As a young man, didn't pay much attention to it. I moved up here to the Houston area when I graduated in '85. I was 18 years old, and prior to that, well, my grandfather died. They were in their lambskin and all like that doing a ceremony at the funeral.
Right.
And all. And I was like, well, Uncle Buddy, what was all that about? I'll tell you later. And all. And I was 18 at the time. You had to be 21 and everything. And well, I moved away and all. And I guess it went to the back of my mind. Then thinking more along it again, I guess it just happened to come through my hard drive like that. Just kind of thinking. And I said, well, George Washington, all these other fellows and stuff. And well, what did my grandpa do? What did Uncle Buddy do? And at the time I was doing Civil War reenactments up in Hempstead every year. They would have a master's degree out in the woods.
Oh wow.
What are they doing out in the woods out there? Dragging trailer loads, old boy loads of brothers out to the woods.
Right.
And I was like, man, so yeah, the curiosity and wanting to know why did that man take his hat off every time he said God and stuff like that. And that brought me in, and just so happened my general foreman at work, new foreman, come in, and he had he's in chapter and council or something like that. He has a different ring and a little cube thing, and got to asking about that. He said, what you want to know about that for? To be one, ask one, and I didn't know I was like asking about it per se, because I didn't know, other than asking my Uncle Buddy, and at the time I was too young. Then he just off the computer right there gave me a printout, and went to the nearest lodge in my community, CA Fortner, and the rest is history. But there was individuals there. I was looking for Grandpa. He's not my grandfather, but that's what we call him, Grandpa. In my other world, my barbecuing world, doing barbecue cook-offs, Vernon Hellman. And I went in there with my petition, and they said, "You know anybody here?" It's like, "No, but I'm looking for a fella." I figured him to be a pillar of the community, because I've seen him at the Channel View Shelton, Go Texan cook-offs, all the other ones in Wallaceville Courthouse, helping out with the fish fry that's there for different leaders being elected. And I don't know his name, but I called him Grandpa. Your grandfather? Nope. But he looked up, "Oh yeah, you're talking about Vernon." We compared phone numbers, and that kind of, we'll say, got my foot into. They couldn't eat me. I knew that. And that's where, as far as what Keith, my general foreman, told me. He's from League City, and I've been in lodge with him, since then, to doing stuff as well. And that's what he told me. They can't kick you out or anything like that. Just come on in there. You're just a fella going in, and then you meet all the good guys and all the great guys and brothers and everything, and then get your signatures and stuff. Yeah, that was the allure of it. Kind of like wanting to know the different things about the ceremonies, because that's what I like with degrees. And one of these days I'm going to memorize all that ceremonial stuff at a burial. But that's the hard part, probably, trying to separate yourself from the death of somebody you know or you may not know.
Right.
Yeah. But if he was a Mason, so you're doing to a departed brother who's dropped his working tools. But that's the part where I'm trying to work on. It's kind of like, you got to separate your business, doing business of the lodge per se.
That's got to be tough.
Yeah, and just to see them rattle it off, and everything.
Right.
But yeah, that was my wanting to do for others. I guess I've been told, and before I got into Masonry, one fella asked me. He said, he started asking me Masonic stuff. And I said, "Rick, what are you talking about?" "Well, letter G." I was like, "What do you?" I thought you were somebody else. And then after I got into lodge and he's a member of CA Fortner. He's a visiting brother who comes, not every week or nothing like that, because he lives off in Old River and all like that. And after that, we got closer in touch, and he works someplace else. He doesn't work at where I work at anymore. But yeah, it kind of brought us that much closer. To be mistaken as a Mason, I guess, or something like that. Yeah. Maybe that I was carrying myself good that day, I guess, or something. But yeah, that was that was my little things. Like people thinking I'm somebody else. What is he talking about?
Right.
What is he thinking that of me? And he wasn't thinking bad of me. He was thinking good of me, and he just assumed.
It's interesting. In a way, it's kind of like the clergy. I think that Masonry is a calling, But I've met a lot of guys who have been Masons their whole life. They were just waiting to come home.
Yeah.
And I think you can pick them out, And there's been several people who I've just noticed out in public, and I'd say more than half of them turned out to be Masons. It's almost like you get used to it to the point to where you can just see it on somebody. It's almost like a light that shines. Yeah. I found it to be one of the most interesting things I've ever been involved in. And Frank had mentioned the Holy Grail, and that some people are disappointed. That didn't happen with me. I really got lucky. I did find the Holy Grail, and it wasn't in my first degree, but it was in my second. And it was interesting that when I looked down where I was walking and I realized everything that was said there, I thought to myself, man, this is it. This is it right here. And the interesting part of that was it's been there my whole life and I never saw it. Yeah. So Masonry brings about things that are right in front of you that you never see, but from a different angle. And then when you wake up to it, I'm literally getting goosebumps now talking about it. But when you wake up to it, it's like, how did I never see that before?
Yeah. There was a lodge there on Federal Road. I didn't know there was a lodge right there.
It was
I ain't going up and down Federal Road. I've been living out here.
It was obvious, and I've only been a Mason 10 years, and I think I've always been a good person. And when they say that Masonry takes good men and make them better, I agree with that. But
yes.
Masonry actually teaches a guy how to live, teaches him how to form relationships and how to stand up on his own. And it's way better than anything else I've ever experienced. And I'm not just trying to blow it up and make
Yeah.
it seem
Oh,
like
yeah,
it's
no,
something
no.
that it's not. I've talked to a bunch of guys who feel
Yeah.
the same way.
Well, when
So-
I talk to people that aren't Masons, you know, they're always let's see they always understand criminality. So I go, you know how criminals get arrested and they go to jail and they meet other criminals and then they share notes and they become better criminals. Well,
Right.
Masonry is the opposing part of that. we take good guys, put them all together, they compare notes and get better guys, and then they go, oh, you know,
Yeah, it makes sense.
because that's really how it is. And I didn't really understand that concept because I didn't even. I mean, I knew I wanted to become a Mason because my father was, and all my uncles were, and that sort of thing. And I knew that they were all good men and all that. But I never dreamed that my life would be like it is today, where most of my best friends are Masons, and we do a lot of things together, both, you know, personally and publicly, where, you know, we work in charities and that sort of stuff. And the power of coming together, you know, with other people that are like-minded, and what you can achieve together. You know, I often talk about, you know, well, if you give a guy, you know, $10 for lunch, you know, you feed him for that day. But if 100,000 of you give $10 to a cause, you can feed a lot of people for extended amount of time. So there's power in that number and that unity when people come together for those causes. And Masonry, you know, is just inherently good at taking good people, putting them together, and then they come up with, you know, the causes that they want to pursue, and they're wildly successful. Even though, you know, we have challenges, I think, in all the areas that we talked about earlier, we're hugely successful in what we do on a day-to-day basis. So we just have to do a better job at tooting our own horn, so to speak,
Right.
and capitalize on the opportunities. I was talking to a master of the lodge not too long ago, and they were talking about, well, when we give out scholarships, you know, we do a dinner with the family, and that's it. And then we, you know, present the, you know, scholarship. And I said, well, did you ever think about doing that in a public forum? And, you know, they're like, no. And I said, look, you're giving the scholarship so that people get a better education and all that. And I said, but you should get the bang for your buck and get a return on that investment in the community, and
Absolutely.
let them know and let them be informed about that. Because, you know, that's one of the things about Masonry that, you know, the community doesn't know if you don't tell them. And if you don't make them a part of it, you're missing that great opportunity. And
Right.
we do that a lot. So capitalizing on those opportunities, you know, and coming together, and it just makes us more successful. So
Yeah, it sounds like it all boils down to PR, really. You know, maybe the reason for our decline is that we just haven't been great at public relations.
Yeah.
You know, because our open house was you know, and it's been real successful, and it's been the best PR we've ever done, I think.
yeah,
You know, and before I became master of the lodge, and before COVID, I mean, I had already told my secretary, I said, we're putting down 4 open houses this year. I want to do 4. You know, I want to do 1 a quarter. So, I mean, I was into it, you know, and of course COVID shut that down. I'm hoping that we can get back to a point where we can do public events again. First thing I want to do is an open house. And the way that we structured our open house with a lot of explanation, a lot of in-lodge time, you know, and then having the brothers just promote it through their Facebook pages and things like that, and it works.
yeah.
So, you know, if we could take that on a national level and even maybe expand upon that, you know, maybe, and I don't know if Grand Lodge would ever even consider something like this, but maybe the Grand Lodge ought to consider even hiring a PR firm to see if they can help with putting together some things on a state level or you know, Grand Lodge level for us. You know, and it's just a thought. So, I mean, since we know that that may help us out in the long run, we need to expand upon it, you know, as much as we possibly can. And it's like Frank said, you know, you're going to get more bang for your buck when you're out in the public doing what you need to be doing.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe that's what we need to spend the vast majority of our time on, and we can turn this thing around.
Yeah. Well, and I think we need to be careful not to beat ourselves up about the decline too much, because you have to understand where the peak came from. So we don't want to go through another world war so that masonry is in a great incline, because World War II is actually what launched the increase in membership, you know, that we saw in the 50s, because many of the brothers were coming out of the military and they were looking for that camaraderie and that brotherhood that they had in the military, and masonry was, you know, for them the right fit at the right time.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, same with Vietnam veterans, not quite as much, but so those increases actually came from those times, which is a natural phenomenon. I think we will see in our time another natural phenomenon where, you know, people are attracted back to morality, back to looking for something that is beyond themselves, and really that's what drives it. You know, when people are interested in doing more for the community than for themselves, you know, once they put the video game controller down and figure out, hey, you know, I want to do something more with my life than to beat this guy from Japan on this video game, you know, things will turn. And so understanding the natural decline, you know, there's some decline. I don't think we're going to hit the bottom where we fold up and go home, but I think there's a natural decline because of how the increase came, and we just have to be careful not to overdo it and to compromise our principles, which will crater masonry. I mean, if you you know, it's kind of like if you sell your breeding cattle, you're pretty much out of the cattle business.
Right.
And if we compromise our principles, then we're out of the masonry business.
Yeah, it's a delicate balance. It
Yeah.
really is. Yeah. It's a lot to think about. You know, and that's why I wanted to start this particular podcast with this particular topic. You know, I thought that just going over the state of masonry and trying to determine, and it's just three guys. I mean, it's three out of many, you know, but trying to make a determination of where we are, how we got here, and where we're going. To me, it's the first step in making things good again. So I think that we can get there. It's just a matter of being intelligent about it.
Yep. And there's so many things trying to get that attracts our attention, other than masonry, like say soccer with the kids or what have you. And I guess with me doing the Civil War reenactments, even with that, there's been a little bit of there has been a decline in that. Not so much with the political atmosphere that kind of hit us these past couple of years and all like that, but almost through the same thing of doing the Game Boys and all like that. And being too old to actually sit in camp and dress up like a Civil War guy instead of going out and doing the battles and stuff. But yeah, they're just through age and different other interests that people are getting.
Right.
But that's with masonry, I guess, from seeing the videos that Most Worshipful's committee had put out, the different interests, like motorcycle riding groups, you know, all Masons and all like that. And I've had guys, well, I like shooting guns. Well, yeah, the Shriners got a shooting club. Mm-hmm. Really? I was like, yeah, well, I like bowling. Well, yeah, they got that too. And that's what I guess with the Shrine. But then you got to get into the blue first and keep that going and everything. That other's the other. But still, you can have friends with common interests and friends and brothers with common interests in your own lodge and everything. But yeah, showing that when not just a bunch of old guys with sticks up our backside or what have you like that. We're regular guys too, always constantly trying to circumscribe others' desires and keep our passions within due bounds, all that kind of good stuff, trying to keep on the straight line. But hey, we're regular folks too, but we're trying to do better and wanting to help folks and make this rock we're living on go around a few more times, that's for sure.
There you go. So let me ask you this: in your travels, since now you're district deputy grand master, and I know you, I don't know how many lodges are in your district.
6.
6. And have you seen them all?
Oh yeah, I've done them all
Okay.
twice. I've already finished up with my last one. There was Baytown Lodge.
Wow, you're expedient.
I guess what letting cats out of the bag. You had your schedule. You had to go by. You had to have them done by a certain time, and then your overall report of all your lodges in your district had to be turned in. Maybe if you're, I don't want to say your guy running late, but maybe he had things going on and had to reschedule. Of course, due to the COVID things,
Right.
and maybe y'all's lodges are coming back online
Right.
and all like that. And it's a small house when you're delivering the message, so you try to. You know,
So let me
be
ask you,
entertaining.
in your travels of seeing 6 different lodges, it's going to be a several part question. Number one, has it changed your idea of masonry at all? Number 2, have you seen anything that you thought to yourself, well, this is unusual and this works well? Anything like that at all? That you could recall right off the bat that
Haven't seen anything different. Other guys, I guess, checking like, oh wow, how bad did things come out? And there'd be brothers that might have come up to their stated meeting, and it just happened that was the night I was there, and they're like, oh, well, that's brother so and so. I hadn't seen you for a while. Yeah, I'm checking in on you fellas. But good things is like, man, feels good. Feels good to be back off in here. And granted, like I say, we're all masked up and stuff
Sure.
like that in lodge and everything, per the Grandmaster's orders and with the governor and everything. But yeah, you see the camaraderie coming back, and then people just kind of coming in. Y'all still here? Y'all still here? Kind of
Right.
thing. You know, but and bringing up what can we do? Oh, yeah, beat the drums, call the troops, get them all back out, and everything.
Sure.
So it's been kind of like you get there. Wow, there ain't that many guys, but that fella showed up. He ain't been here in a year, you know, like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a mix of different things, and with delivering the message, instead of going verbatim, try to bring up other things. Like we was talking about, what can you do for masonry? And I kind of throw that little thing in there. That's not what masonry can do for you, but what you can do for Freemasonry and everything. So
Sure.
and some guys are like, yeah, JFK. But yeah, they just throw off something like that. You know, so
Right.
little things to promote and to remember and to bring back, and let's get this ship right and let's get it on down the road. That's for sure. But yeah, just trying
There you go.
to stir the guys up and everything. Because like I said before, it's like reminded with King Solomon's prayer, there is hope of a tree if it be cut down, that it will sprout again, and that the tender branch thereof will not cease. And I would say that the mighty Masonic oak, it hadn't been cut down, and it hadn't been uprooted, but with all this that's going on, it shook a few leaves.
Oh, yeah.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
So we gotta get them sprouts going back out there again.
Right.
And-
Yeah, I know that our attendance numbers have been way off. I'm used to seeing between 40, 45 guys in lodge at a stated meeting, and I think we're right around 15 or 20.
Yeah.
Now, my fear is that some of the guys will fall into the habit of not coming,
That's the bad.
and and then you lose them. And it's really hard to get together a committee of individuals and say, okay, let's start calling people and get them back in the lodge.
Yeah.
It's tough to do.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you can pass those lists out, but whether it really happens or not, I mean, it's always hard in a volunteer organization to get active volunteers. And Frank can attest to that probably
Yeah.
better than I can, because he did more in his year making attempts to make our lodge better and do fundraisers than several before and after. So Frank worked it, you know, and found it to be difficult, I'm sure. But I fear that, you know, COVID hasn't really nailed the coffin closed, so to speak.
No.
But man, it's hurt, you know. And
Yeah.
and the thing that concerns me more than anything else is that this is going to turn out like 9/11, and it's gonna have permanent changes in the way we live, work, think, worship, and play together.
The new norm.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm not a big fan of the new norm. I don't like it, and I think it hinders our ability to gather as Masons. You know, and so we've got to really be strong and make sure that our brothers know that, yeah, we're still here. Yeah, we're still having lodge. We're still doing degrees. We're still doing all the things we were doing before. It's a little different now, but we're still doing it. And we sure want you to come back.